Crew member Nancy here. In our last program, you found me relaxing as a passenger, not a crew member, on a very large ship traveling from Montreal to New York City. We visited wonderful ports along our route, and we got to see some behind-the-scenes activities on the ship and meet its crew. But we're far from finished, so come aboard as the adventure continues with stops including Bar Harbor, Boston, and Newport before reaching our final destination. And we'll go behind the scenes again to see how big ships and small boats and the people who run them have a lot in common. We're coming in here to Bar Harbor, Maine. This is a beautiful spot from everything I can see right now. And while we're in Bar Harbor, we'll be visiting Acadia National Park. We'll go to the Jordan Pond House for lunch, and we'll chat with a lobsterman. We'll be tendered in from here since the harbor isn't deep enough for the boat to dock.
On Cadillac Summit, you're 1,532 feet above sea level. That makes Cadillac the highest point of land directly on the eastern seaboard from here all the way down to Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. If you're on Cadillac Summit between October and March, you'll be the first person in the continental United States to see the sunrise. You can hike, you can boat, you can enjoy lakes and ponds, you can enjoy the open ocean. The reason why I find Acadia extremely attractive is the diversity. There's just so many different types of environments that you can explore here on the island. In 1929, when we acquired the last third of Schoodic Peninsula, which is across Frenchman Bay, we changed the name to Acadia National Park. This was the first park east of the Mississippi River, and it was the first park made up entirely of donations of land.
Acadia National Park is known as the place where the mountains meet the sea, and that certainly is true. If you look behind me, you'll see classic Maine seacoast with one slight difference. Maine isn't typically known for its sandy beaches, but here in Acadia National Park, you've got that too. Yes, it's cold. One of Acadia's most popular attractions is Thunder Hole. For more than 100 years, visitors to Acadia have enjoyed dining indoors or on the lawn of the Jordan Pond House, where popovers with butter and jam and homemade ice cream are traditional fare. Prior to 1918, Bar Harbor was the village of Eden. Today's Bar Harbor is a tourist paradise. I'm here in Bar Harbor, Maine, and I stopped at Ben & Bill's for an ice cream cone, and I couldn't decide between moose droppings and lobster, so I got them both. Here in Bar Harbor, Maine, obviously one of the main activities is fishing, so we thought, why not talk to a fisherman? In this case, we're talking to a lobsterman.
I was on my way to college, and a little boat came for sale, and I decided, no, I think I'd rather do this, and this is where I've been for 28 years.
A recreational fisherman will go out for all kinds of fish. Can they also go out for lobster?
We have a recreational license here in the state. It's a 5-trap license. You can only fish 5 traps. You cannot sell the lobsters. You can only, what lobsters you take, you can only use for your own, have for your own use.
And how many traps do you have out?
Well, I fish 800 myself.
Are they widespread or in a pretty...
Yes, they cover a large area, yeah.
How do you identify good fishing ground?
Well, trial and error.
Does this handle rough water pretty well?
Yeah, it's a pretty good boat. Yeah, it does well.
You're not scared when it gets...
Well, if I get scared, I come home. If we catch a lobster in this one, I'll show you.
Wow.
Well, we're lucky.
Oh
We've
my
got some.
gosh.
This one's too little to keep. Now this female lobster, see that tail?
Yep.
That one right there? If there's
yeah.
anything wrong with that tail,
Right there.
there's just the slightest little nick. That one, I'll re-notch that. A lot of people wouldn't, but I'll re-notch that lobster and I'll release her. And she's protected. Nobody can have her. And
So she can go ahead and breed more lobster.
she can breed more lobster. We have this tool right here,
I like that.
and we'll just put it on her tail like that. Now she's protected.
So a responsible fisherman's going to be sure not to bring in that lobster.
Yeah, well, if anyone got caught with that lobster right now,
Be
they'd
in
be in
trouble.
violation and they'd have to go to court. But most of the fishermen do what I just did because this is our livelihood.
Right.
This is the future of the business. That whole area will be like full of eggs, just covered with them. And as you can see, there's the crusher claw, there's the pincher claw.
Pincher claw. Because the crusher's got a big heavy.
Right. And you can also feel this lobster she just shed. Push easy on her side, you can see.
Oh, sure.
See,
She's
she's
soft.
quite soft.
Beautiful. Can I throw her back?
So, sure.
Okay. Go on back and make babies.
She's gone.
We tendered back to our ship, where passengers enjoyed the setting sun as we departed. The seas were calm, and the view from my balcony was breathtaking. I decided I would visit the ship's lounge, where different live entertainment is presented nightly. The next morning, the fog lifted as we arrived in Boston, the cradle of American independence, 184 miles from Bar Harbor.
We're on the water ferry. This is a unique form of transportation here in Boston. It's run by the same folks who run the T, that's public transportation in the city of Boston. It runs every 15 minutes and it'll take you between Charlestown, the aquarium, even to the airport. At only $1 and running as often as it does, it's a great way to commute.
Boston's inner harbor mixes both commercial and pleasure boating traffic, providing easy access to waterfront attractions.
Here in Boston's Naval Shipyard, we went aboard the USS Constitution, where we talked with Seaman Campo and found out more of the proud history of this 200-year-old battleship.
Constitution was built right across the harbor here in Boston, Massachusetts in 1794. Constitution is a 54-gun frigate. Originally, she was sketched to be a 43-gun frigate, but she actually has 54 guns. It takes a crew of 9 to 14 men to man these cannons. Constitution is a 3-masted square-rigged ship. Constitution's beam, which is her width, is 46.5 feet, and from billet head to taffrail, or from all the way in the front to the back end of the ship, is 204 feet long. The actual complement of men any time during 1812 to 1815 would actually be about 450 to 500 men on board the ship. She was involved in 3 major wars. One of those wars, the War of 1812 against the British. This is where Constitution got her nickname of Old Ironsides, and also it's what made the United States a naval superpower. In one of the battles against one of the British ships named the HMS Guerriere, Guerriere's sailors were shooting cannonballs at Constitution's sides, and in turn those cannonballs were bouncing off her sides. This is where Constitution gets her nickname Old Ironsides, which she still holds today. Being that I am a sailor on board and serving here, I feel that it's the greatest honor that a sailor can be given if they're a member of the United States Navy.
Close to the waterfront is one of Boston's most famous landmarks, Faneuil Hall. In the old days, it was the site of the original Boston Tea Party meeting. Today, it's the center of a bustling marketplace where visitors can find anything and everything, from great seafood to fresh flowers, fruits and vegetables, to clothing and souvenirs of all kinds.
How you doing, son? Ben Franklin. Where you from?
Every year, a variety of street performers audition, hoping to be selected to entertain visitors to the marketplace. Roaming musicians, singers, acrobats, jugglers, clowns, and mimes provide more than 2,000 performances.
The 187,000-gallon New England Aquarium is another must-see if you dock in Boston.
We spotted some unusual pink tour vehicles, and reporter that I am, I had to get the story.
And we're all set here. Okay. Hang on, here we go. We almost got some water up there, huh?
Almost. Almost.
You succeeded.
All right. See these buoys over here to the left that say anger, they're supposed to say danger, but somebody keeps rowing out, taking the D's off on us.
So what exactly is the concept?
Well, we use a World War II amphibious vehicle known as a duck. It was originally DUKW, which was a code name, which seemed to be appropriate, so you know, land and water. And we give an historically narrated tour about Boston. And we tried a new format of trying to make it the tour about freedom, fun, and first.
And it's about a 90-minute round trip?
And the average is about 80 minutes, about 50 minutes on land and about a half an hour on water.
And you have, how many of these are?
We have 16 of them, and we'll carry around 400,000 people this year. You know, a lot of people, and really the whole time I thought I was
You
crazy.
have no problem quacking.
Oh no, quack, quack, quack.
10 billion. Now, we're going to give you the whole Back Bay project here.
Never. Never. And this is what really was part of my whole vision, is that this is just an incredible panoramic view.
This is what took 40 years.
You can't get from the harbor of Boston, you only get from the Charles, and it really wasn't accessible by water to the average person.
Now, does everybody play off the whole duck thing?
It's the thing that I'm most proud of, that I was a catalyst for, not that it was my idea, because Boston was not known as a friendly place. And now you have people interacting, and they're quacking each other, quacking and waving. And I don't know how else you can kind of say. I mean, it's just sort of like, you know, when you quack and wave, it's a friendly thing. It's, you know, fun and a quack, quack, quack.
We got to visit the ship's control room, where all of the electrical and mechanical systems are monitored.
Can't help but wonder, especially the first time you move, is how big are the propellers?
Okay, we have two propellers, one on the port side, one on the starboard. The propeller diameter is 18 feet, and there are 4 blades on each of the propellers.
Next, we headed below decks to the engine room.
Down here, as you say, we've got a bit of everything. I've got main propulsion units, diesel generators, alternators, air conditioning systems, sewage systems, firefighting systems, refrigeration systems, you name it, it's all down here. Behind us here is what we call a propulsion motor. This type of ship is referred to as diesel electric propulsion. Typically, they run at 140 revs. The propellers are what we call CPP propellers. So the maneuvering of the vessel is done by changing the pitch on the propeller blades. We want to go ahead, the pitch is altered one way. We want to stop, they are altered another. And that way we can keep these propulsion motors running all the time. We're going to pass through a watertight door. It's a safety feature. Every passenger ship is got vertical compartments which extend vertically upwards above the waterline of the vessel, such that in the event of flooding of a particular compartment, we can isolate them. on a sea passage, I would typically burn 100 tons of fuel a day. In port, it's a little bit less. This area here is basically an area where we store our freshwater services room. I have a capacity freshwater of 2,200 tons. This piece of apparatus here is the sprinkler tank. It's part of the fixed firefighting system for the accommodations purposes. We have 3 thrusters on the ship. 2 of them are forward, 1 of them is aft. And they give us that maneuverability for in port. It's not very often you'll see a tugboat alongside a cruise ship because we just don't need them unless there's adverse weather conditions. But they give us that capacity to come off the berth in a horizontal motion.
After touring the engine room, I returned to my cabin, where the news on my television wasn't what I wanted to hear.
These are the remnants of Hurricane Bonnie, now Tropical Storm Bonnie, continuing to bring rainfall to Cape Cod and up through Maine on into Nova Scotia. We expect the storm to accelerate now off to the northeast later today as this trough of low pressure continues to push eastward. That should go ahead and shove it offshore.
Cruising is turning out to be quite an adventure, one that we're certainly enjoying, maybe more of an adventure than we anticipated. It turns out that Hurricane Bonnie is a little bit south of us, and so as our captain has put it, due to inclement weather and high swells, we will change our scheduled itinerary and not set sail for Newport, Rhode Island tonight. Instead, we'll stay docked here in Boston where things are a little bit more calm and then head out directly for New York tomorrow. But that's all part of the adventure of cruising.
Newport is a seaport on an island that shares Narragansett Bay and Rhode Island Sound, that's famous for its sailing, jazz festival, and mansions. This is the place where the legendary palaces of the Gilded Age remain a lasting tribute to America's early, wealthy businessmen and women.
Welcome to Beechwood, Mr. and Mrs. William Backhouse Astor Jr.'s home. My name is Miss Eliza Dunwell. I'm a housemaid here at the Astor's home. When you step through the doors of Beechwood, you will step back in time to the year 1891, and you will encounter all sorts of family and friends of Mr. and Mrs. Astor. We can answer any questions you might have. See, I'm a bit clairvoyant. I was unfortunately hit on the head with a candlestick by Mrs. Lightfoot a few years ago. She thought I was a burglar. It was a terrible mess, but I've been able to see the future ever since. I suppose it was worth something. Well, that also includes the Titanic incident of 1912. You see, Mr. and Mrs. Astor's youngest son, John Jacob IV, did perish on that ship, and, well, he has several good years left. We wouldn't want to ruin the rest of his life by telling him that in advance, now would we? Well, a bit about the home before we begin. It was built in 1851. Actually, not for the Astors at all, but for a plantation owner by the name of Daniel Parrish. Mr. and Mrs. Astor didn't purchase the home until 10 years ago, in 1881, when Mr. Astor purchased it as an anniversary gift for his wife. Quite a lovely anniversary gift, if I do say so myself. For $190,000, and since that time Mrs. Astor has done $2 million herself worth of renovations and additions to the home. Well, if you step right this way, we just simply ask that before we begin you not sit on any of the furniture. Mrs. Lightfoot, the housekeeper, does like to keep things a bit neat and tidy. But if you brought your camera boxes, feel free to take all the pictures you like. Mrs. Astor does delight herself in her home, and she'd be quite proud of it. If you do take pictures, though, make sure you don't leave any flash powder lying about. It'd make quite a mess. Well, if you step right this way, I can just show you in.
Newport is often chosen to host both national and international sailing events. Of course, powerboaters are welcome too. This is one town where you don't have to search for the waterfront. It's everywhere and lined with boats. The wharves, many dating back to the 1700s, once serving commercial fleets, now offer visitors dockage, shops, restaurants, boat tours, and streets that are fun to wander. Bed and breakfasts, and the oldest operating eatery in America, dating from 1687, the White Horse Tavern, welcome tourists to a unique touch of America's history. We visited Iris, the International Yachting Restoration School, which is located in a converted power plant on the waterfront. Here, students learn basic woodworking skills as a part of an academic program that prepares them to restore old boats and build new boats from the keel up. Not bad. Newport's Museum of Yachting, housed in an early 19th century building, includes exhibits featuring classic boats, historic artifacts, and memorabilia. There's an outdoor in-water collection as well, and the much-loved two-time America's Cup defender, the 12-meter US 26 Courageous, is moored in front of the museum.
During a cruise, you get an opportunity to dress up and go to a formal dinner in the dining room 2 or 3 times. This is our final formal dinner, and as I understand it, it's going to be a very special one, where the chefs pull out all the stops and do some of the finest cooking that they've done on the entire cruise, including what I hear called the Parade of the Baked Alaskans.
We do about 700 main courses, appetizers, desserts, you name it, in like an hour. In an hour. But we have to prepare for second sitting also. Second sitting, it's another 700. It's a lot of calories.
Yeah.
But you can all take them home duty free. So that's the good part. It's actually a mix. It's French, it's American, it's continental. Up here in New England, we do a lot of seafood. Crab, lobsters, salmon, halibut.
So you adjust the menu to suit the cruise?
That is correct. You afraid of lobster?
No.
They're pretty.
You're a big guy.
They're nice and fresh and firm.
Yeah.
So you take one and then we take another one.
And what do I do? Break them in half?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, and you just go like this.
It's embarrassing me. I'm really not doing this right. Wait.
As our voyage came to a close, we passed under the Verrazano Narrows Bridge and past the Statue of Liberty that represents so much to so many of us and to so many immigrants who passed this way long ago. And Captain Mercer kept a keen watch as we traveled up the Hudson River, passing many marinas along the way. The Empire State Building drifted by as passengers gathered on deck to enjoy the skyline. We passed the aircraft carrier Intrepid, now an exhibit open to the public. Slowly, we maneuvered into our berth in New York City with a new appreciation of the joy that is cruising.
We hope you've enjoyed these last 2 episodes of Cruising America's Waterways on the big ship as much as we have. We've covered a lot of miles and seen a lot of beautiful sights and met some wonderful people. And we'll be back with you again next week as we continue to cruise America's waterways.